Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the news tonight here on Rajya Sabha TV. I'm Tracy Shilshi, and in the next 30 minutes, I'll be getting you the day's top stories from India and across the world. Let's start with the headlines. Samajwadi Party Chief Mulayam Singh Yadav names Nitish Kumar as the chief ministerial candidate of the JDU-RJD alliance for the upcoming elections in Bihar. Seat sharing to be decided upon soon. Centre appoints Vijay Sharma as the new Chief Information Commissioner. Former CBDT Chief KV Chaudhary is named the new Central Vigilance Commissioner. New audio tape evidence surfaces against Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister Chandrababu Naidu in the cash for votes scam. TDP files cases of defamation against the Telangana Chief Minister. Widespread protests over controversial advisory forces the Delhi government to ban two-finger test for sexual assault survivors. And Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan loses majority. The country faces prospect of a coalition government. The top story this Monday, JDU leader Nitish Kumar will be Janata Parivar's CM candidate for the upcoming Bihar Assembly polls. Janata Parivar chief Mulayam Singh Yadav made this announcement, ending all speculation of problems in the alliance. The seat-sharing formula, though, will be finalized by a committee that will hold its first meeting on Tuesday.
Bihar Chief Minister Nitish Kumar will be the chief ministerial candidate of the JDU-RJD alliance in the state. Ending all speculation, Samajwadi Party Supremo Mulayam Singh Yadav made the announcement in the presence of RJD chief Lalu Yadav. On his part, Lalu said the alliance was formed to fight the communalist forces in the state.
एक होकर के रहेंगे और रहते रहे, वही लोग हम सब हैं। लेकिन मैं लालू प्रसाद जी को विशेष धन्यवाद देते हैं तो उन्होंने मुख्यमंत्री के लिए नीतीश कुमार जी का नाम पेश किया है और कहा कि हम कैंपेन करेंगे और हम सांप्रदायिक शक्तियों को हराएंगे।
देखिए, तरह तरह की बातें मैं जानता हूं कि सांप्रदायिक ताकतें किस तरह से काम करती है। जगह जगह जो है, अब नाम लेने से नहीं, जो मीडिया में भी जो सांप्रदायिक ताकतों से प्रभावित है लोग बोलते रहते हैं। तो हम लोगों ने देखा कि नीड ऑफ द आवर है। नीतीश तो मुख्यमंत्री है, समर्थन जारी है।
Even though there was no talk of Congress being part of the alliance, Nitish claims the party is with them. The CPIM, however, is in wait-and-watch mode.
बाई इलेक्शंस हुए थे 10 स्थान पर पिछले साल, तो उसमें जेडीयू, आरजेडी और कांग्रेस के बीच में तालमेल था। इसलिए आगे के तालमेल में तो कांग्रेस पार्टी शामिल है ही।
What we have decided is that strengthening of the left is only strengthening a force against the communal forces. The left has been the most consistent and will remain the most consistent and the strong anti-communal force in the country. So this is our decision, which was taken along with the other left parties some time ago. We shall meet now with the other left parties and see what are the developments that will take place and accordingly take the decisions.
The NDA, however, dismisses the alliance as one of opportunism and mistrust.
हताश, हारे हुए, मजबूर लोगों ने मजबूरी में गठबंधन किया है। तो बिहार की जनता देखेगी वो नीतीश कुमार जो 17-18 साल से लालू जी के कुशासन का विरोध करते थे भाजपा के साथ, आज उनके साथ आकर के नया बिहार बनाएंगे।
With the clarity now on the chief ministerial candidate, the focus now shifts on a seat-sharing formula that will be decided by a committee comprising leaders of both the RJD and the JDU. With inputs from Shyam Sundar and Pranav Goswami, Bureau Report for Rajya Sabha TV.
All right, for more on this, let's speak to Sanjay Singh, who's the political editor with First Post, joining us here this evening. Sanjay, if you can hear me, needless to say, this of course wasn't an easy decision, but eventually it's happened. Is the next hurdle going to be seat sharing?
Yeah, precisely, you're right. Announcement of Nitish Kumar as chief ministerial candidate was only natural. He's serving chief minister and also has a face in terms of alliance. From merger to alliance, I think this is a step backward. But alliance was tottering to its fall, and there is also a possibility that elections could be triangular. From there on, now a direct contest between this alliance and the BJP-led alliance coalition. Now the battlegrounds have been let down, and battle is going to be very intense and also very interesting. Now, under the situation, the RJD had been demanding, say, roughly around 145 seats. Previously, a formula which many big JDU and RJD leaders are off record saying that both parties will contest around equal number of seats, that is 100 each, and or remaining 43 seats will go to allies, Congress and NCP and so on if others particular alliance. But challenges from here today, Lalu Prasad Yadav said, "Hamare dil mil gaye." Their hearts have come together.
Yes.
But I think it's indications from their mind which has got this particular alliance, because they know that if they go it alone, if there is a triangular contest, there is going to be direct benefit to the BJP, and therefore, faced with an existential crisis that was there in the aftermath of parliamentary elections, and now they have come together. So far, this is good for the RJD, JDU and Congress alliance. In terms of arithmetic, this looks to be a very formidable alliance, but elections is not just about arithmetic, it is more about chemistry of the electorate.
Absolutely. Also about the leaders, whether Lalu Prasad is going to toe this line, and he of course claims to say this is a sacrifice is made for the better good, but we'll have to wait and see what eventually happens. But Sanjay, is the BJP a little worried?
I would say the BJP should be concerned, if not worried, because as it is a direct contest between opposition forces uniting against BJP, but also this narrative of anti-BJPism or anti-Modism and secular communal narrative, I don't know which way it goes, because parliamentary elections were broadly fought, though parties were different, they were divided, but parliamentary elections were essentially fought on this particular card. And don't forget that Bihar elections in 2005 and 2010, Lalu Prasad Yadav was basically fighting again on this same plan, the secularism versus communalism plan. That has, of course, Nitish Kumar was in a different group then with BJP. Now Nitish Kumar and Lalu Prasad Yadav are together. Therefore, the leaders, also Nitish Kumar was known to be a person who was said to be, he was called Susasan Babu, the person who could deliver good governance. But Nitish Kumar, 2005, he delivered governance. 2009, he and BJP returned with thumping majority, winning 3/4 of the seat.
Yes.
From there on, last 1 year, of course, Jitan Ram Manjhi was chief minister from JDU. Somebody also had to take that into account. In the intervening period, Jitan Ram Manjhi became leader in his own right.
Yes.
Also is a player. Don't forget he is also a player. And therefore, how it shapes from here on, the kind of narrative that goes, whether it is going to be anti-BJPism, secularism versus communalism, development, who can also enforce this thing of development. Of course, Nitish Kumar will also give narrative. The slogan out there is Bihar Vikas ke path pe Nitish Kumar phir se. Something of that sort. Nitish Kumar, the hoarding and posters have come all over. From there on, of course, caste is latent factor in Bihar.
Yes.
BJP's combination is also a casteist combination.
Yes.
So is JDU, RJD and Congress's combination. Congress is in a happy situation. They had lost credibility, they had lost popular support, they had lost ground. From there on, suddenly they are very much thick into the scheme of things.
Yeah, they are sticking to the popular leader, they're sticking to the popular face and hoping that will even, bring in some seats for them. We'll leave it there for now, Sanjay Singh. Thanks so much for joining us. We're running short of time, of course, but thank you for giving us an idea of really the permutation combinations that we'll be seeing as far as few days go. Seat sharing, of course, tomorrow the main meeting is going to take place. Rajya Sabha TV will be tracking those developments. Meanwhile, let's get on to more news this evening. And former chief of the Central Board of Direct Taxation, KV Chaudhary, has been appointed as the Central Vigilance Commissioner, while the senior most Information Commissioner, Vijay Sharma, was named as the new CIC. Now, the government and the opposition had on the 1st of June agreed on the names of the CIC and the CVC posts lying vacant for over 9 months. The agreement came after 2 meetings between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the leader of the Congress in Lok Sabha, Mallikarjun Kharge, in 2 different committees. Now, the cash for vote scam in Telangana has reached the doorstep of Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister Chandrababu Naidu. An audio tape released by rival TRS points fingers at Naidu, a charge vehemently denied by the TDP. As allegations and counter-allegations fly thick and fast, both parties are now headed for a bitter face-off.
On the day he completed 1 year in office, Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister Chandrababu Naidu got embroiled in a major controversy, a cash for votes allegation. A local news channel in Telangana has aired a taped phone conversation where allegedly Naidu is heard asking a nominated MLA to back a TDP candidate in the state's Legislative Council elections. The Andhra Pradesh government denies it is the Chief Minister's voice on the tape, accusing rival TRS of doctoring it.
Whole episode started by TRS party, manipulation, maneuvering, bribe, everything, conspiracy, everything from TRS side. As far as TDP is concerned, we have nothing to do with these tapes or money transactions. We are very clear on that.
Multiple cases of defamation and illegal phone tapping have now been filed against Telangana Chief Minister K. Chandrasekhar Rao. Naidu even met State Governor ESL Narasimhan seeking his intervention on the matter. The Telangana government, however, is unwilling to let Naidu off the hook. The state's Anti-Corruption Bureau is planning to summon the Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister for questioning.
अगर चंद्रबाबू नायडू साहब तैयार है तो दोनों भी, अगर चंद्रबाबू नायडू साहब तैयार है तो दोनों भी बैठ जाते हैं लाइव टीवी के सामने और लाइव डिटेक्टर टेस्ट ले लेते हैं। चंद्रबाबू नायडू साहब ने किसी को भेजा या नहीं, किसी को उन्होंने पैसे की ऑफर किया कि नहीं, करप्ट प्रैक्टिसेस के लिए जो जाने जाते हैं वो उसमें इंडल्ज किया कि नहीं, उनको आमने सामने बताना पड़ेगा।
As allegations fly thick and fast across the border, voices seeking Naidu's resignation are becoming louder.
इस तरह से चंद्रबाबू नायडू मुख्यमंत्री आंध्र प्रदेश वो खुद उसमें इन्वॉल्व नजर आए हैं और उनकी कन्वर्सेशन टेप है। किसी आधार पर कि तथ्यों के आधार पर ये मांग उठाई जा रही है कि चंद्रबाबू नायडू को इस्तीफा दे देना चाहिए, तो वो इस्तीफा दें, जांच के को स्वीकार करें और अगर तथ्य सही पाए जाते हैं तो हमेशा के लिए राजनीति से संन्यास लें।
चंद्रबाबू नायडू पीवी नरसिंहा राव की तरह से इसमें फंसे हैं। जैसे नरसिंहा राव जी जेएमएम कांड में अभियुक्त थे, श्री चंद्रबाबू नायडू का भी वैसा ही हश्र होगा जैसा झारखंड मुक्ति मोर्चे में श्री नरसिंहा राव जी का हुआ था।
The cash for vote scam emerged on the 31st of May with the arrest of TDP MLA Revant Reddy and 2 others. They are accused of bribing nominated MLA Elvis Stevenson to vote for a TDP nominee. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Now, the Delhi government today issued a new advisory banning the controversial two-finger test to determine sexual assault. The new directions now say that the test will be done only if it is needed for treatment purposes. In a controversial advisory late last month, the government shocked lawyers and women activists by stating that the tests could be conducted with the consent of rape survivors.
More than a week after it triggered a storm with its advisory to determine sexual assault, the Delhi government on Monday clarified that it was misinterpreted.
वो जो एडवाइजरी जिसकी बात आप कर रहे हैं, 6 महीने पहले एक एक्सपर्ट कमेटी ने रिपोर्ट दी थी जिसको कि लागू कर दिया, सर्कुलेट किया गया। आप इसको विड्रॉ कर लिया? विड्रॉ का मतलब इन्हें क्लैरिफाई कर दिया।
The 31st May advisory of the Delhi government attracted widespread criticism from health experts and women's activists.
Their main election agenda was of women's safety and security, and we are demanding that the Delhi government should make all effort to ensure the Delhi women their constitutional rights, and that should be their main focus instead of taking such anti-women decisions or issuing such anti-women guidelines. It is absolutely unnecessary, this two-finger test, and I am happy that the Delhi government has withdrawn that statement. It's well and good.
In 2013, the Supreme Court noted that the two-finger test on sexual assault victims violated the privacy of the victim, following which the Union Health Ministry banned it.
What is surprising that after such clear Supreme Court guidelines, how the Aam Aadmi-led Delhi government has come out with a notification instructing hospitals to carry out the two-finger test, A government which said would protect the rights of women, would empower women. Is this empowerment? This is a clear degradation and inhuman practice towards women. It should be withdrawn immediately. In fact, even if it is withdrawn, the Supreme Court must pass strictures against the government, the Delhi government, for coming out with such a notification.
The Delhi government had asked hospitals to take informed consent of the woman before conducting the test. It has now said that the test will be banned on survivors unless it's required for treatment purposes. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Vice President Hamid Ansari today reached Shimla for a 3-day visit. He visited St. Edward School, his alma mater. The Vice President spent some time with the students, teachers and staff of the prominent boys' school. It was his second visit to the alma mater. In a brief address, Ansari said the visit refreshed his old memories. He also answered students' queries, telling them that the school disciplined his life. In other news, the markets plunged 245 points to 26,523, their lowest level in nearly 8 months. Analysts said the fall was triggered by concerns that the US Fed will increase rates as early as September. Fears of a drought as well as the RBI's cautious stance on economic recovery continue to hit sentiment. The 30-share index saw an erosion of 1,326 points since Tuesday when the Reserve Bank cut the repo rate by 25 basis points despite flagging concerns over economic recovery. And for other national stories, let's take you through nationwide. The Pakistan Army violated ceasefire along the line of control in Poonch district of Jammu and Kashmir late on Sunday evening. Pakistani Army fired several rounds at Indian Army posts in Balakot sector. Firing from the other side of the LOC also triggered explosions of several landmines on the border. The Congress joined other opposition parties including the DMK and PMK in boycotting the 27 June by-polls to the Radhakrishna Nagar constituency. AIADMK Supremo and Tamil Nadu Chief Minister J. Jayalalitha is seeking a re-election from there. The Congress has alleged that the ruling AIADMK was following unfair practices with the knowledge of the Election Commission. Kalanidhi Maran promoted Sun TV shares crashed over 25% on Monday amid reports that 33 television channels may go off air. The Home Ministry had struck down an INB Ministry proposal for giving security clearance to these channels of the Sun TV network, a move that could lead to cancellation of their broadcasting license. A Supreme Court bench recused itself from hearing the plea of BJP leader Subramanian Swamy against an order of an Assam trial court issuing a non-bailable warrant against him. The trial court issued the warrant after Swamy failed to appear before it in a case of alleged hate speech. With that, time for a quick break here. But on the other side, on the second day of the G7 summit in Germany, climate and terrorism on the agenda.
Hello and a very good morning. You're watching the Breakfast News.
Every development worldwide impacts India. What happened overnight matters. Wake up to a complete roundup of world news. Keen analysis to kickstart your day. Watch Breakfast News, weekdays at 8 a.m.
Welcome back. You're watching the news tonight. Let's get to some international news now. And following a major blow at the recently concluded parliamentary elections, Turkey's ruling AK party hinted at forming a coalition government soon. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has called on all parties to preserve the atmosphere of stability in the country as they fail to win an absolute majority. Pro-Kurdish party made an entry into the parliament for the first time as they crossed the 10% seat threshold.
Winds of change in Turkey.
Ahmet Davutoğlu geliyor.
For the first time in last 13 years, the ruling Justice and Development Party suffered a stunning blow in the country's parliamentary elections. Hinting at a coalition, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan said no party can rule alone and that an early election could be on the cards if it fails to do so.
Başkanımız demokratik teamül gereği birinci olan partinin, AK Parti'nin Genel Başkanı Sayın Başbakanımıza hükümet kurma görevini verecektir. Ve ben Sayın Başbakanımızın süresi içerisinde gerçekten Türkiye'nin bu seçim sonuçlarında
Celebrations broke out on the other side as Turkey's main opposition parties welcomed the game-changing results. Pro-Kurdish People's Democratic Party made major historic gains, crossing the 10% threshold for the first time.
13 yıldır gittikçe baskıcı bir yönetim anlayışına dönüşen iktidar bugün itibariyle sandıkta
HDP'nin barajı aşması Kürt halkı için çok büyük bir gelişmedir. Ve bu siyasi anlamda artık bizim partimiz siyasi anlamda gerekli müdahaleleri bulunabilecek.
I think it's an end of a period, it's a long period that the AKP had enjoyed ruling the country on its own, the way it liked, because it had always a good parliamentary majority, so that it could legislate everything. So it seems that this is an end of an era.
With nearly all votes counted, the AKP has won 259 out of the 550 seats, 18 seats short of an absolute majority. The electoral verdict, however, puts in doubt President Recep Tayyip Erdogan's proposal to transfer power from the Prime Minister's office into his hands. Erdogan first came to power as Prime Minister in 2003. He had sought a two-third majority this time to turn Turkey into a presidential republic. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Meanwhile, leaders of G7 countries are meeting in Germany's Bavarian Alps for the second day today. Talks on climate change and terrorism will dominate the summit, even as security remained tight in and around Germany after mass anti-globalization protests yesterday.
An unambiguous 1,000-meter wide message from Greenpeace for the G7 nation leaders who met in Germany's Bavarian hills for the second day. German Chancellor Angela Merkel put the climate change high on agenda as a precursor to the UN Climate Summit in Paris later in December. Merkel warns G7 nations to reach an agreement on limiting global temperature rise.
We're going to discuss our shared future, combating threats from violent extremism to climate change.
The G7 leaders will be joined by presidents from Iraq, Nigeria and Tunisia. They will focus on the threat of Islamist terrorism posed by Islamic State and Boko Haram.
We'll also have a chance to talk about hotspots like Libya and Nigeria, where obviously terrorism has gotten a foothold.
The need to fight Islamist extremist terrorism, particularly in Iraq and Syria, but elsewhere around the world. It's about keeping people safe back at home, where the cooperation between our security and intelligence services and our military is as close as it's ever been and as effective as it's ever been.
Security remains tight in Bavarian Alps. Following protests from several groups, over 20,000 police officials have been deployed to ensure peace. Hundreds have gathered to protest over a number of international issues ranging from climate change to free trade. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
With that, let's take a look at some more international news in Global Buzz. Chinese authorities confirmed 434 deaths in the Yangtze River cruise ship capsized on the 1st of June. Rescue officials said 2 more bodies were recovered on Monday, bringing down the number of missing people to 8. Only 14 people could be rescued after the accident. Mexican President Enrique Pena Nieto's party won the congressional elections despite falling approval ratings and violent election day protests in many states. His Institutional Revolutionary Party, or the PRI, was expected to win between 29 to 30% of the ballots, followed by the Conservative National Action Party with 21 to 22%. At least 19 militants, including top commanders and 7 soldiers, were killed in intense fighting between Pakistani troopers and Taliban insurgents in the country's northwest tribal areas. The fighting took place near the Afghan border in North Waziristan, where militants continue to remain active despite a year-old military operation. In South Korea, growing cases of the disease known as the Middle East Respiratory Syndrome, or MERS, have caused a sharp drop in tourist numbers. According to the Tourism Authority, 4,500 tourists from Asia, including those from Chinese mainland, Taiwan and Hong Kong, cancelled their trips in June. Meanwhile, the total MERS infections in the country surged to 87 with 23 new cases. The first MERS case was reported on the 20th of May. Alright, changing tracks. Wine improves with age, and so do tennis players, it seems. At 30, Stan Wawrinka has become the oldest player to win the French Open in a quarter of a century, and he did it by beating two big guns en route, world number 2 Roger Federer in the quarters and number 1 Novak Djokovic in the final.
On Sunday, Stan Wawrinka stunned the world and its top men's tennis player Novak Djokovic by winning his maiden French Open title. The 30-year-old Swiss played some magnificent tennis to win the match 4-6, 6-4, 6-3, 6-4, shattering Djokovic's dream of completing a career Grand Slam.
For me, this one is really special for sure. Playing Novak here in final, the number 1 player, almost winning everything since the beginning of the year. And especially the way I played and the way I finished the match, the way I was focused all the match, the way I changed the momentum.
I lost to a better player who played some courageous tennis and deserved to win.
This was the second Grand Slam title for Wawrinka, making him the only active player not to have lost a Grand Slam final. His first Grand Slam title was the Australian Open in 2014, where he beat Rafael Nadal in 4 sets.
6-3, 6-2, 6-6, 6-3. After a final that was dramatic.
The title has helped the Swiss to move up 5 places in the world ranking, climbing up to the 4th spot. Winning the title at 30 makes him the oldest player to win French Open in 25 years. But despite his age, the Swiss has emerged as a force to reckon with in the last few years. He is only one of 3 players to have beaten the Big Four: Roger Federer, Rafael Nadal, Novak Djokovic and Andy Murray in Grand Slams. Bureau Report, Roger Sabatian.
And with that, let's get you the other sporting buzz in Sports Beat. The Indian cricket team arrived in Dhaka today for playing one test match and a one-day series. India will start the tour with a test match on the 10th of June. It will be followed by 3 ODIs starting the 18th of June. Virat Kohli will lead the side in the tests, while MS Dhoni will lead the ODI team. Off-spinner Harbhajan Singh returns to the squad after playing his last international match in March 2013. South African athlete Oscar Pistorius is set to be released on parole in August after serving 10 months in prison. He is charged with culpable homicide in the killing of his model girlfriend Viva Steenkamp. Pistorius is eligible for release under correctional supervision, having served a 6th of his sentence. The Olympic and Paralympic track star is currently serving a 5-year prison sentence after being convicted in October last year. Lewis Hamilton took a control victory in the Canadian Grand Prix to race away to his 4th win of the season. His Mercedes teammate Nico Rosberg finished 2nd, followed by Williams' Valtteri Bottas. Hamilton has now extended his Drivers' Championship lead to 17 points. A leading FIFA official has said that Russia and Qatar could lose the right to host the 2018 and the 2022 World Cups if evidence of corruption is found in the bidding process. The comments came as bribery claims mounted against the disgraced former FIFA Vice President Jack Warner. Swiss judicial authorities are already probing the awarding of the World Cups to Russia and Qatar. And that's all we could pack in on the news tonight from the entire team here. Good night.